Embattled FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is facing a slew of criminal charges this morning. Those include defrauding investors in his failed crypto exchange empire. He was arrested in the Bahamas last night and was charged by the Security and Exchange Commission this morning. At least $1 billion are still unaccounted for. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane has more from Washington.
In the emerging, intricate world of cryptocurrency, Sam Bankman-Fried was king, running FTX, one of the world's largest exchanges. Until all of a sudden in November, the company fell apart and the king was dethroned. And he spoke out about it last month.
Look, I screwed up. I was CEO. I was the CEO of FTX. And I mean, that means that I was responsible ultimately for us doing the right things. And we didn't.
Investors lost billions and FTX fell into bankruptcy. The CEO who'd replaced Bankman-Fried blamed the company's failure on grossly inexperienced and unsophisticated individuals. The nation's Treasury Secretary spoke with Norah O'Donnell on 60 Minutes about the failure before Bankman-Fried's arrest.
A lot of people have lost a lot of money, and from the details that I'm aware of, the controls were utterly lacking. Consumer protections that Americans expect to be in place were simply not there. Importantly, this company mainly operated in the Bahamas, and I think that wasn't an accident. We do have protections, and some of them may even apply to crypto exchanges in the United States.
Bankman-Fried, who ran the business in the Bahamas, was scheduled to appear before the U.S. House Financial Services Committee today to be put under oath and answer questions about the failure of his company and the shockwave it sent through the digital currency industry. But at the request of American authorities, police in the Bahamas took him into custody late yesterday to face federal charges, including violating securities laws here in the U.S. It's unclear when Bankman-Fried will be turned over to U.S. authorities in U.S. custody, but it's very clear Congress is going to consider stiffer rules and stiffer regulations for this emerging digital currency economy and industry to prevent another collapse of another multi-billion-dollar company.
All right, so Bankman-Fried was actually scheduled to be testifying in Congress. I thought he was supposed to be in D.C., but he's not. I learned that from you earlier today. He was supposed to testify from the Bahamas. What's going to happen with this House panel's investigation?
Yeah, the House Financial Services Committee will proceed with its hearing without Sam Bankman-Fried. There'll be the current CEO of FTX who will appear, and members of Congress will, of course, speak and talk about this possibility of crafting legislation to stiffen the rules and the goal posts and make it more direct where this industry should be focused and what constraints should be in place. But Sam Bankman-Fried, the star witness, will not be appearing. It's also worth noting there was a standoff between Bankman-Fried and a Senate panel that also wanted to have a hearing and his testimony. That's not going to happen either now that he's on a trajectory to be in U.S. custody and facing federal criminal charges.
Scott, before you go, let me ask you about government funding negotiations. What are congressional leaders saying about how the talks are going, and what's the holdup at this point?
Well, the deadline is Friday, Vlad. Doesn't it appear they'll make that deadline for a new spending bill to keep the lights on and keep the federal workers working? So they'll likely have to push that deadline back closer to Christmas or New Year's Day. It's interesting. Every time there's one of these standoffs around the holidays, there's a Christmas miracle and the deadline gets slid back. That's likely to happen again here. But they're not too far along in these negotiations, considering the proximity to the deadline. We haven't seen a top-line number. We haven't seen a piece of paper circulating with some of the details or line items for a spending bill. So there may be some more work to do, but they do have likely until the end of the calendar year if they kick the can down the curb to prevent a government shutdown and keep the government funded.
All right, Scott, thank you very much, as always. Appreciate it.